Okay. So here we go. In the early morning of June the 12th, 2024 at 2:25 a.m, my grief officially started its timer. My name's John Ross, and this is a podcast about grief. About mine and about yours. It's a sad subject, and you might, and I will most definitely cry, probably each episode. And yeah, and I'm hoping that it's not all going to be doom and gloom, like a totally miserable podcast. I'm hoping that we might also smile and laugh about all the silly things we end up doing when dealing with such a topic. I guess I also hope it really helps someone. This is not a therapy session. It's just a conversation. I guess I just needed a selfish way to talk about how I was feeling in order to process things, and I thought to myself, the best way to do this was that after I was talking to people, I realised that the more I opened up about it, the more I realised that people who I spoke to either haven't talked about it themselves and that they feel like they need to, or it's a subject that feels a bit taboo and that it should be avoided, but they want to or need to express themselves and what it means for them. So that's what this is. Me connecting with you, sharing your story and thoughts, and me sharing mine. And yeah. So welcome to my first podcast. To say I'm shitting it is a little bit of an understatement. I don't expect anyone to be listening. This is not what this is about. But yeah. So, grief, huh? What a bitch. I've been thinking about how to start this podcast in so many ways, and I think I have recorded so many variations, and it just came down, but I just kept messing up, and I realized that I can't pre-plan this. I can't write down a scripture about how it is or how it makes me feel, because really it's a sensation that you experience and that you go through and that you live it in the moment. And that's how I'm going to deliver this podcast. I'm just going to be in the moment. And so I guess that maybe I'll speak absolute shit and that'll be okay, because maybe no one's listening and I'm just some crazy person talking to myself. But yeah, death. I have never lost someone. Not someone as significant as this. And yeah, the first person that I happen to lose is my grandfather. To give you some context, my grandfather to me was not just a grandfather. He was everything to me. Yeah, can't even talk about it already and I'm crying. I'm only about 3 minutes in, so this is going to go really well. He was like a superhero in my eyes. He could do everything. He was everything. I remember growing up and I just always had this vision in my head that he was this really tall, huge, strong, courageous man. And when I got older, I realized he was actually only 5'6" and really, really small, but still courageous and still had all the qualities in a human being which I really appreciate: loving and caring. And yeah, we had a very special bond. You see, I'm the first born, so technically that means I'm the golden child, right? Which that's what my family call me, because that's what my granddad saw me as. I was the golden child. I could basically kill someone, and my granddad would probably try to find some excuse of why they deserved it. Um, but we did everything when I was growing up. He would take me everywhere. Any sport I wanted to play, he was there. Any subject or anything I was interested in, he would listen. If I needed something, I didn't even need to ask. He would just get it or do it. He was like my number one fan. I don't know how I'm going to get through all this without even like trying to speak normally and not have tears or a blocked nose because I'm crying. I promise there will be funny bits at one point. But I think that's why I wanted to start this whole thing. You see, there's a point where after the first month, I felt ashamed to talk about it because I didn't want to make anyone sad. I felt like it was a burden to people around me because they were worried that I would be upset or they would say something that would upset them. So I just made excuses to not go to things. And no one questioned someone in grief, right? Because you don't want to be that person. But I realized that I need to talk about it. It's healthy to talk about it. And it made me think, why don't we talk about these things? Why do we feel awkward? People die. It's a natural part of life. It's just hard when... Well, no, I guess it would be hard if it was any person or anything. But for me, in this particular moment, like, I love my parents, but my granddad was just something else. I think he's the biggest loss which I'll experience. And yeah. You see, I was with him when he died. I had this strange moment where it was about 12:30 in the morning. I was staying in the hospital. My granddad was unconscious, and I was sat by his side, and I was starting to feel really tired, and I started to go to sleep, or at least nod off, and something in my gut, just, I don't know, this otherworldly sensation overtook me, and I just had this sensation of it saying to me in a voice that was saying, if you go to sleep right now, you're going to regret it. I can't explain it because it wasn't exactly those words, but it was that feeling. And so I stayed up. And then at 2:25 a.m., my granddad made this weird sound, a sound which I've never heard before in anyone, and it was the last grasp of air before it left his body, and then he died. He died right next to me. And for a moment, I was still. I didn't know what to do. It's not every day you look at someone that you love and who's dead in front of you. That sounds really morbid, and I'm sorry. But I just took a moment and I calmly walked outside to the nurse's station, and I just said, I think my grandfather's passed, and they walked in the room, they checked for me, they acknowledged that, and then they asked if I needed anything, and I just said no, I would like to sit in there, and it felt very weird to say that. But it felt like the right thing to do was to go back into the room and to be there. And I went in and they closed the door, and I just sat there. I sat in silence. Sometimes I looked at him, other times I couldn't. Yeah. Whew. Then comes the grief. For the first few days, yeah, I felt sad, of course. But it was weird. It was like I was nothing. It's like I had no feelings, and all the feelings all at the same time. Like I didn't cry, but I didn't smile. It's almost like I did nothing, and I just laid in bed as the time went by and didn't really think about it. Yeah. It's strange when the position of what you think your position is of in your family, for example. Like for me, I was kind of like next in line. If, let's say, in the next generation, that I'm the first male and the first born male. And I felt like I just took his place all of a sudden. I know that's not true, but it kind of felt like it. And I felt like I had to be strong. Fuck, what a strength in that case. I think I wanted to hold it together, to be there for my gran, and to be there for my mum, who I realised that, as much as I've just lost a grandfather, my mum and my aunties have just lost a parent. And that was really apparent to me. But it also affected me in terms of how I felt like I needed to grieve in that moment, because I didn't want it to be about me just because I had this really special relationship. We all have special relationships with my granddad. We all had our own special relationship. Because also that was the type of person he was. That he made sure he had those special relationships with each and every single one of us. And I think that's what is hard. Like when you build that special bond with someone, I think that's what makes the grief so difficult. Like all of a sudden, it's just feels like that bond is gone. The grief hits hard. Sometimes I feel like it completely and utterly destroys me. Where I feel like some days where I just can't do shit. Literally, even just making a cup of tea seems like the world's toughest task for some reason. And other days, I'm laughing and I'm smiling, yet I'm crying at the same time, and it never presents itself in the same way. And that annoys me. That annoys the shit out of me, actually. Because I guess I'm quite a logical person in lots of ways. I'm very emotional, as people who might be listening and who will know me know that that's true. But I'm also very analytical. And so if I can't work out something, it really frustrates me. And this frustrates the shit out of me because I cannot put my finger on it. I don't know if this feeling will ever go away. And again, that annoys me. It's an emotion or a feeling which is undescribable because it changes, it evolves, it adapts. And it'll just pop out of the blue sometimes. Or other times you will feel it creeping and you want to tell it to just piss off. But no, it says, hey, I'm here, I'm coming, are you ready? No, good, here I am. Boom. And you just gotta deal with it. That's the annoying thing, just being able to deal with it. I mean, how do you deal with it? And I guess that's part of the conversation that I wanted to open up for myself and for others, is that how do you deal with it? So a part of this podcast is that I was trying to think of questions that I can ask myself, but also that I would ask the people who would come on. And one of the questions, kind of loosely, was: is there something that you do, or that you find yourself doing when you're in a grief day or a grief moment? And is there anything that kind of helps you with that? Because for me, I definitely have. Well, I've just realized that I have this weird thing that happens, and yeah, so I end up going to the supermarket and I end up buying like a ton of chocolate. Like I'm talking like everything chocolate, like biscuits, cereal, milk, anything with chocolate. I seem to just pick it up subconsciously, put it in the basket, and then I pay for it. I come out, I come home, and then I've just got like like a shit ton of chocolate, and I'm sitting there in such a foul or like sad mood while I just eat this, like literally like a truck full of chocolate. Ah, yeah. So if you ever see me with like a bag literally filled with chocolate stuff, run. So by the dictionary's definition, the word grief is described as intense sorrow, especially caused by someone's death. And I didn't quite understand what that meant. And so when I looked it up, it said the sorrow is a feeling of immense sadness, like the sorrow you could feel if your best friend, like suddenly moved across the country, or when, yeah, someone dies. It's like sorrow is an almost unbearable sadness. In fact, it's often used as a synonym for grief. Cinnamon. Well, if there's one thing you're going to learn from this podcast, is that I can't say that word. Hey, what did you learn about grief from that podcast? I can't remember it, but I remember that John can't say that bloody word. Not much else to say on that one. So I realize I've been talking for over 20 minutes now, and I don't know if any of this makes sense to anyone. I don't even know if it makes sense to myself. I don't know if I'll listen back to this. Probably not. Um, but I guess this is the beginning of the conversations that I want to start having with people. And this is a podcast for people to share their stories and their feelings and thoughts on things, and for me to listen and for me to also share mine with them. And yeah, and hopefully we can find some things together, and some of it'll be sad and some of it'll be funny. And yeah, maybe I'll create a funky jingle to lighten the mood, so it's not all like doom and gloom, as I said at the beginning. But there's so many more things that I would love to say and that I can say, but you'll just have to come back for episode 2. Oh, the tension. So this is the last segment of the podcast, which I'll do for myself and I'll also do for my guests, where I ask them, and I'm asking myself, about what song would you play that either helps you through grief or reminds you of the grief or brings back all those memories or shuts off the memories. It could be whatever you want in terms of this moment. And for me, this is where I play this song. But unfortunately, due to copyright issues, we can't play the songs. So I offer an invitation that at the end of the episode, you can go into the bio and then you can click a link which will take you to a Spotify playlist, which today will be my song, and when I have guests, it'll be their song. And it'll be a nice way to round off the episode so you know what we listen to. A playlist filled with grief. Told you it'd be fun. I just want to thank you for taking the time to listen to my story. And if you would like to join in and like to be a guest and just come and have a conversation with me, then please do get in contact, because I would absolutely love that. And for anyone going through any moments of grief or experiencing it right now, like, I feel you. I hear you. But be kind to yourself.